Welcome to Psychanooga.
I'm your co-host, James Grant.
And I am the other co-host, Bethany Cawthron.
Do you remember in episode 1 you said, what's your favorite drink? And I said, I drink Monster all the time.
Well, except
if I wanted to be a healthy person.
You drink water all the time.
I drink water all the time to be a healthy person.
But if you drink Monsters, your heart will explode.
Yeah, unhealthy. And it's only taken one episode and I've got a Monster by me, so we're doing great.
I think that's really good progress. What are you going to be doing by the last episode? By the end of the semester, you'll have an entire wall of just empty Monster.
Oh, you don't want to see my room right now. Just cases and cases of Monster.
Really?
I buy them in bulk. Do you know you could even do that? I didn't know you could do that.
Wow. Do you go to Costco and just buy big things?
I just buy a pallet. They see me walk in and they hate me because they have to get the forklift and load a whole pallet of Monsters into my car.
Wow. And yet you were the one talking about drinking so much water. You seemed like you were about to, your head was about to explode, and then you, your eyes got really big, and then you took another sip of the Monster and then went, ah.
You're just describing what heavy addicts are like. You looked like you were about to die, then you took a sip and now you look fine.
That, my friends, is what caffeine addiction will do to you.
I went almost a week without having Monster, okay? It's not an addiction. I can stop whenever I want.
That's what they all say.
Yeah.
He's too energetic, guys.
The Monster has been banished to outside the recording studio. It's only episode 2. Already having an intervention.
We're already having an intervention.
In episode 1, I said that I was fired off Monster, and I was so healthy because I drank only water. And currently there's a Monster energy drink sitting right outside the studio because I banished it.
Psychoanalyze that, psych majors.
Well, I think we have to psychoanalyze the fact that you told me that I looked dead until I took a sip of my Monster and my eyes lit up. Who do you think has been there for me in my darkest moments? Monster. To lift me up.
Mm-hmm. And also bring you down. Because
the bringing it down is its fault.
The way your voice cracked when you said that. It's not its fault.
Don't take it away. Okay. Moving on.
I say the main theme of our podcast will always be beverages now. Where'd you get the Monster that's outside the booth?
In the UC. There's this little vending machine. And it has Monster in it.
That's his true love.
I go to it so often. It knows me so well.
You didn't see that, listeners, but he just smiled. We've really got to get to business, James. We are here to talk about why people choose psychology as a major.
Became interested in why people chose psychology, what their careers are, their favorite parts of being a psychology major, and so on and so on. Tell us a little more, Bethany. Why did you become a psychology major?
Well, I wasn't always a psych major. I was a comm major first. I'm double majoring in communication and psychology. And I was a comm major first. And when I went to pick my minor at the end of freshman year, I chose psychology. And then I had a little crisis my sophomore year where I was like, well, what do I really want to do journalism? Do I want to do more of psychology? And really what it was is that I was enjoying my psych classes a lot more that semester than I was enjoying my comm classes. And I was like, what does this mean? But no, anyways, I had an advising meeting where I was talking to her about my confliction. And she was like, well, you could just double major. And I'm like, and because comm majors have to have so many electives that are non-comm, being a psych major, all of those psych classes take care of the comm electives. Therefore, I would really only add 2 credit hours to my plate.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was like, well, that just sounds like a no-brainer. So I added psych as a major. But psychology, I was always interested in psychology, through high school and everything. From a very young age, I was I wanted to do journalism, and that was my That was my goal. That was my focus. And everything was kind of geared towards that. But in high school, I started to kind of find more of a love for psychology. Like, I was always the therapist friend, and my friends were always like, you would be such a good therapist. And I don't know. And I would do research on psychology because I found those topics interesting, and like why we do the things we do. Like, that always just interested me. Minoring in psychology it just felt natural, and then adding it as a major came kind of naturally too. But now I consider it as like my two loves, communication and psychology.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, but yeah. What about you? Why did you choose psychology?
Well, in high school, I got really interested in personality types, like Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram and the Big Five and all that. And I got really into those. And that sort of evolved over time into a general interest in psychology. I started buying like intro to psychology books and other things like that. So personality was kind of the jumping off point. I just really fell in love with it as a whole. So even like if I've had doubts about where I want my career to go, I know that this is like what I want to major in because I always have fun studying it and learning about it.
So what do you want to do with psychology after college?
I don't know. I probably want to take a gap year first thing. Maybe counsel with it, some form of therapy, but I'm not super certain about it yet.
What would you do with that gap year?
Maybe just get more experience, like try and find a psychology-focused job and buckle down with it. I'm looking at the monster. It's right there, right there.
No,
I can see through the walls.
You see it through the gray wall, the soundproof.
There's just a light emanating right there. A little green light, and I can see it. You ever read The Great Gatsby?
Yes.
You know the green light? Mm-hmm. That's my green light.
The green light, I guess, yeah.
I will not name names. However,
boy. It's one of those stories.
My least favorite thing is 200 level classes, 100 level classes with an obscene amount of busy work.
Yeah.
Of stuff I already know. So like I said, I've been reading about psychology since high school. Like, I bought like intro to psychology books, psychology for dummy books. I could ace a intro to psych class right now with no studying. I guarantee you. And because I'm a transfer student, I don't have all the big credits. So I have 200 level classes right now. And one of them's fine. One of them's actually pretty good. The other one is just a lot of busy work for stuff I already know. Taking tests that I don't have to study for at all, and I get like A's on them. And that is my least favorite thing. Part of it. I love my 400 level classes because they actually make me think. The other bad part is, when this is going to be a bridge. When you're taking abnormal psych and you see the diagnostic criteria and you start thinking, oh, this kind of sounds like me.
Yeah.
You've had that experience?
Definitely.
That's something. Put that over here. You know how there are developmental theories that are like, hey, you have to pass through these stages of development and get out of it healthily to become a good person. I'll look at those and be like, oh, I didn't make it through any of the stages. As a child, you learn trust or mistrust. Oh, I definitely didn't learn trust. This is a problem.
Right. Yeah, there's the whole attachment theory.
Oh, I'm not secure at all.
Yeah.
I promise you. That's my other least favorite part, is the self-reflection of, oh.
No. So we met with Emma Woodard and Isaac Pratt. Emma is a junior and psychology major, and then Isaac is also a psych major. He's a freshman. Byron is a senior. He is about to graduate from UTC. He's been a teaching assistant for many classes, and he is active in the psych department.
Very much so.
So I've always been interested in human behavior and biology from a really young age. I remember growing up and reading my grandmother's old nursing textbooks and everything and being fascinated by images of the brain and the central nervous system. And obviously I didn't know what I was looking at the time because I was so young, but I just remember being fascinated by it. And so when I turned 18 and started looking at different college routes, it was really no question as to what I was going to pursue. It was going to be something with human behavior. And so I chose psychology at Chat State, graduated with my associates, and then moved on to UTC to pursue my bachelor's in science here.
What so far has been your favorite part of studying psychology?
My favorite part is, since I've just taken intro, I guess learning the basics, like learning broad outline, like learning a lot of different facets, like the biology, like brain chemistry, like little bits of that, like history of how psychology was started and such, and learning about all the different interesting facets. And I guess my favorite part is that it is so broad, and so I don't feel so nailed down to psychiatry if that doesn't end up being what I'm drawn to. There's a bunch of different outlets that I go through, so I really like that. My mom went pretty much as far as she could go in nursing, so I figured if I was going to go into psychiatry or psychology, then I'd try and go as far as I wanted to, which I feel like psychiatry is a pretty good high goal to set. Yeah, I feel like it influenced me in that way.
So Emma, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to major in psychology?
I always really liked studying the mind and everything, and I decided to be a psychology major during COVID when everything shut down, and I was watching a bunch of documentaries about true crime and everything. So I'm a psychology major and I'm minoring in criminal justice, so I have knowledge about both aspects. I'm a transfer student from Columbia State Community College, so this is my second semester at UTC.
What's your favorite documentary you see?
Probably the Richard Ramirez documentary was pretty good. The Netflix one that they did, it was pretty informational, and they didn't really romanticize the Richard itself. Mm-hmm. So I hate it when they do that, and controversial opinion, but I did really like how the one with the docu-series, not documentary, with Evan Peters, Dahmer, I liked how they focused more on the injustice of the victims. It's still pretty controversial. Some of the parts are a little bit did they really need to add that? Did they really need to add Evan Peters almost flashing people? But I did really like that one though.
Do you tell us more about what psychology means to you on a personal level?
To me, I think psychology, obviously the definition is the study of human behavior. Right. But for me, psychology on a personal level is really looking at why we do the things that we do, why we act in certain ways, why we are who we are on our best days, and why we are who we are on our worst days. And so it's studying the biology and the mental processes of humans on their best and their worst days.
Mm-hmm. Tell us more about what it has kind of meant to you to actually make these things kind of happen, being a psych major in college and, getting to be a TA. How does that feel?
Yeah, so I was raised by my grandparents from a very early age. None of my grandparents had any type of college degree or anything. My grandmother became a licensed nurse practitioner and worked as a nurse her whole life. So I'm really a first-generation college student to graduate in my family, and so being able to pursue this and obtain this degree has been an incredibly rewarding experience, and to be offered different positions as teaching assistants, as well as to be able to be a research assistant and conduct original research, presented at different conferences across the country and then here locally, has been just the honor of a lifetime.
So you've actually presented stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, the way I got into being a teaching assistant was through research, and so kind of different professors in the department saw what I was doing and said, if he can do this, I wonder if he could help me in my classes. So I've TA'd for things like child development, and then social psych, and now psych of law.
What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about what psychology is?
Well, definitely when I talk to people who aren't psychology majors, they definitely like have like a very niche idea of what you can do with the psychology degree. Like whenever I tell someone, I'm a psychology major, and they're like, I can't see you as a therapist. I'm just like, I don't want to be a therapist. I would not be a good therapist. That's why I'm not going to be a therapist. I think a lot of people just think like it's like taking notes and listening to people's problems and everything. And like a good majority of the jobs that they do that, but like there's a lot of things that like in other fields that like you can do with the psychology degree. And I don't think everybody knows that unless like you take psychology as a profession or like do your research.
I think a common misconception might be that when you get into psychology, you're only interested in looking at psychopathologies. Mm-hmm. For me, while they're interesting, that's not been really my core focus. I want to investigate resiliency. I want to investigate different positive aspects of psychology, what makes us flourish, what makes us thrive as individuals. I think another common misconception is that all psychology majors kind of go in it to fix themselves or fix people that they know, when in reality it's just a very interesting field to learn more about and has important contributions to society.
Thinking back on what Emma was talking about, because she was talking about how she got into psychology during the pandemic and quarantine, watching all those crime documentaries and everything. It made me think back on like the quarantine days, like, I don't know, like everybody has like their quarantine show.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you watch Tiger King?
No, I didn't. I was like refusing.
Really? Why is that?
Because it was trendy. I was like, I'm not going to watch that.
You weirdo.
I'm not going to watch that because everybody else was watching.
I'm not going to watch something that's popular.
No, that's literally how I am. I got into Stranger Things before it was popular.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, I know. I felt super proud of myself. I watched it like, because it came out and then...
Like a year later it got like...
Right. But I watched it like 2 months after it came out. And then it didn't get popular until like season 2.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I like Stranger Things, but I got into it before everyone else did. So I was
good
like,
for you.
Trendsetter, maybe. But... yeah, it was the same thing with the Yetis too. When the Yetis were super popular,
like the cups?
Because I had a Yeti before they blew up and became big. So
good for you.
Yeah, no, but my quarantine show is Criminal Minds, and so when me and Emma were talking about like crime stuff and how she got into crime documentaries and everything, I was like, oh, well, you need to watch Criminal Minds because that's along the same lines, FBI profilers and everything.
Mine was, I would stay up, Tiger King was like short, but I'd like stay up late with my mom and watch it. And then my other one was Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I got into that one.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot about it.
It's too popular for you. Wait like 5 years and then it'll be obscure.
Exactly. Indeed. Yeah, I watched Criminal Minds because, one of my closest friends like watched it and she was like obsessed with it. Mm-hmm. But it was around the time like the series finale premiered, like the week after everything shut down. And I was like curious to see like what she loved so much about it. So I watched the series finale when it came out.
You watched that last?
First, yes. Yeah. I watched it first. And then I was like, this seems interesting. And then I started it the next day.
There's a show called House. Have you seen that? Or at least heard of it?
I've heard of it, yeah.
I went to my friend's house one time, and we watched, like, an episode of the very last season first. And then I went back and watched all of it, and it was so trippy.
Yeah. No, I've done that, honestly, too many times. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how I started That 70s Show.
I guess for sitcoms it's different, but if it's, like, very story-driven.
If it is very story-driven, it's different. That 70s Show is a little easier to do that with because... I mean, it's a sitcom, and it's a lot of the same stuff over and over. That's how I did Big Bang Theory, too. Have
you watched The Big Bang Theory all the way through?
I have. I know. Anytime I say that to somebody, I get such judgmental
How can you even deal with that?
Okay, well, see, my parents watched it all the time when I was growing up. And so it was like, we always watched TV while we were eating dinner. Yeah. You know, we never ate dinner at the table like a normal family or anything. So and that was like their show. They loved watching it. And so by extension, I ended up watching it a lot. So I always watched episodes here and there growing up. And when the series finale came out, I watched that with them because I was, it was just dinner time. Well, and then watching the series finale, I was like, oh, that was really sweet. But it actually wasn't until about like a year later that I was like, I didn't have anything to watch, and like Big Bang Theory was on one day, and it was like an early episode, and I was like, maybe I'll just watch this. And I started watching it. It took me a long time to watch all of it because it's not a show you can just binge watch because it gets to be a lot. It's like a lot of the same jokes over and over again, and the characters get annoying.
It's kind of like not a good show.
When you watch it all at once, it's not very good.
Yeah. It is living purely by the fact that it's only on once a week and people queue in to watch it.
Literally. I'm pretty sure that's probably the only reason it was successful. If it had come on like a Netflix series, and everything at once, it wouldn't have been popular.
If you watched Young Sheldon?
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I couldn't get into it, though. My parents watch it, too. But I couldn't get into it. I tried watching it after I finished Big Bang Theory. I stopped watching it eventually. But there's going to come a point in that show where the dad dies, and I'm going to go back and watch it for that because I want to see
You'll
that.
watch the dad die, and then you'll watch the rest of it before.
No, maybe not the rest of it before because it really does get, like, boring. But because I've watched a lot of it. But I'll probably watch some of the last season just because I want to see how they deal with the dad's death,
Yeah.
Because that was so heavily talked about in Big Bang Theory, like towards the end anyways. Yeah. So I'm interested. And I think that's going to happen like soon. So I'm going to wait until I hear that it's happened, and then I'll go back and find the episode.
That is crazy.
I know. I'm insane when it comes to TV. I have like the very weird customs, but yeah.
Oh, well.
Anyways, that was a little rabbit hole that we went down again, but I connected with Emma a little bit through that, talking about those. Byron, you want to talk about Byron?
Yeah, his was really good. He was very prepared. I really found it when we said, what do you want to change about psychology? I don't know if you remember, but he gave the answer of he wanted to make licensure more accessible across states.
Yes.
So like right now, it's really hard to be licensed in, let's say, Tennessee, but you want to practice in Georgia because the states have different licensure policies. He talked about wanting to like branch it all. I thought that was a really unique and good answer. Mm-hmm. That shows that he's like thought about it a lot.
Right. And that's such a good point too that you don't think about. But yeah, if you want to go practice in Georgia, I mean, the licensure would be different.
Yeah. And as much of a legal battle almost as I'm sure that would be, he mentioned like everyone wants to like make a big discovery within psychology. Like everyone wants to put out this theory or this idea that would change everything. But that's like a practical, better goal to have in mind.
It is. It's a more achievable goal, I would say. It's attainable.
Yeah. I don't know, I feel like if you're going to go the clinical route, your mindset has to be you're going to help people help themselves. You can't put that burden on yourself, and you also have to help the client get responsibility.
Right, because a big part of mental health is wanting to help yourself.
Yeah, that's half the battle is getting someone into therapy, and then once they're in therapy, being honest and being willing to take the steps to help themselves.
Yeah, that's why, like, so many times when you hear about, like, oh, I made my relative go to therapy, but, it didn't help or anything. Well, I'm like, well, you made them. They really have to decide that for themselves. Otherwise, they're not going to put in the work to get there.
And then Isaac reminded me a lot of myself freshman year. Being like, oh, I want to help people and study people.
Yeah. It's a very broad, it makes sense, you know. He hasn't had all the classes to really figure out what he wants to do yet. So we want to thank Isaac, Emma, and Byron for meeting with us and discussing their career paths and goals, as well as what brought them into the field of psychology.
I really appreciated what the students had to say and the spectrum that we got of responses from, more freshmen, more excited about growing in psychology than their current knowledge, and then to Byron, who's about to graduate.
Thank you guys for listening.
Tune in next time for Dr. Arnold's interview, where we talk to her about substance abuse. We will be bringing up my issues with Monster. So you have that to look forward to.
Indeed. All right. Thank you, guys.